Did Pope Francis restrict the TLM because of Alexander Tschugguel and Taylor Marshall? Stick around to find out more.
You're watching Reason and Theology Live, a show dedicated to charitable discussions, debates, interviews, commentary, and analysis. And now, your host, Michael Lofton.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Reason and Theology. Your host, Michael. On a Monday, I want to examine a claim that is being made recently that Taylor Marshall is responsible for the restriction of the TLM. We're going to look at the person who makes that claim, and we're going to examine whether or not that is accurate, if there's any evidence for it. And then I'm also going to propose an alternative reason. In fact, it's the very reason that Pope Francis gave us for why he chose to restrict the TLM. But let's first look into the claim that is being circulated by some that it's because of the whole event with Alexander Tschugguel throwing the Pachamama idols, as they call it, in the Tiber River. And this was, of course, organized with Taylor Marshall. And it's allegedly the case that somebody was shown a video of this and Taylor Marshall's part in this event. And because of that, Pope Francis decided to issue Traditionis Custodes, restricting the TLM. Let's look at the claim. This is made by Rorate Caeli. They say here, I'm not sure who's posting on their part, so I'll just say they, because I know there's a lot of people who post on Rorate. The Pachamama episode had filled Francis with deep resentment, and then our enemies made him believe it was the collective responsibility of traditionalists. He was shown videos of Marshall and of a second famous American Catholic YouTuber and took the decision to issue Traditionis Custodes. So that is the claim. I immediately don't see any sources for this claim. If this is based on inside information and unnamed sources, I unfortunately have to say I'm sorry that that's hearsay. I can't go based on unnamed sources. I've heard people say all kinds of things based on unnamed sources, and it turns out those things weren't true. So I've already been burned too many times to really put any kind of stock into that. So unless they can put out who the source is, whenever this kind of claim is made, since it's just such a massive claim, I just think that they should put out who it is. Otherwise, just don't do it. I understand sometimes you might not mention a source or something. You might keep their name anonymous for one reason or another. But with a claim this grandiose, I really think you have to have a reliable source for it. Otherwise, nobody can really take it seriously because of how grave the claim is and how grave the accusation is here. And this is, by the way, not just an accusation of Taylor Marshall. This is an accusation against Pope Francis, right? Because it's saying, Pope Francis, this is why you did it. You did it because of the whole issue with Taylor Marshall and the Pachamama event. So this is a grave accusation against Taylor Marshall, but also Pope Francis, more importantly. Not to make light of somebody who is making such claims about Taylor Marshall. I think that that's certainly an issue in and of itself. Now, perhaps they have a reliable source for this, but since we don't know who that source is, it's very hard to entertain this. There's a few more screenshots. Our sources asked for one very important correction in the timeline. Who are these sources? First came Pachamama stunt in late 2019. At the time, no one knew it had been provoked or staged. That's it. Provoked, staged. I'm going to talk about that here in a moment. Then in April 2020 came the new optional prefaces for the 1962 missile. Those angered the anti-TLMers. However, in late March 2020, the prefaces were published. In an interview with Mr. Tschugguel, Marshall revealed that the whole episode had been concocted and financed by him. This was shortly thereafter, and almost immediately following our great win with optional prefaces, revealed to the Pope by those who wanted to show him that his greatest public humiliation, the ridiculous episode of dolls thrown into the Tiber, had been a trad thing. Yeah, I want to talk about that briefly before I get into, again, Pope Francis's motives for why he issued Traditionis Custodes, because I think there's a much more likely reason, and it's, again, the reason that he gave us, so we don't have to resort to these kind of conspiracies from unnamed sources. I think that the motives are very, very clear, and he stated what they are. But let's talk about, was this staged? There have been some concerns raised here, and to his credit, Taylor Marshall recently addressed some of those concerns, and I appreciate that. It seems that in the video that Taylor Marshall did just a few days ago addressing this accusation, I was glad to hear that Taylor Marshall said no, he doesn't think it's because of the whole Pachamama event that Pope Francis restricted the TLM. I was very glad to hear Taylor Marshall agree that that's a little far-fetched, especially without any kind of credible sources being offered and named. So kudos to him. And I think that he did help alleviate some of the concerns, because I'm going to show a clip here in a moment where Alexander just kind of spills the beans in the video without Taylor Marshall having, knowing that he's going to do this, and bringing up the whole thing that they had kind of planned, the throwing of the Pachamamas into the Tiber. And again, to his credit, Taylor tries to say, well, look, the reason why I did not mention it at first when I originally interviewed Alexander, and this just later on comes out, the reason why is I just kind of wanted to remain anonymous as far as his participation in the event. And I think that that's understandable. I mean, if a person wants to remain anonymous as far as their part in a role in a particular event, I think that's fair. But I think one of the concerns is, I remember when he originally interviewed Tschugguel, I had a whole bunch of people message me, and they were very concerned because they were saying, look, in this original interview with Tschugguel, he's pretending that he didn't know Alexander, didn't know how to pronounce his name. This is what they were sending to me. They're saying, look, it seems like Taylor didn't even know who this guy was, didn't know how to pronounce his name. But then it now turns out in this interview that no, they knew each other in advance and they had planned the thing. And so it came across to those people who are messaging me as very disingenuous. And again, to Taylor's credit, he's saying, well, look, I wanted to remain anonymous, but that anonymity issue still doesn't fix the problem that some people have when they felt it was disingenuous, because you can still remain anonymous in one's role in the event and not pretend that you don't know how to pronounce their name and stuff like that. At least that's some of the concerns that were sent to me. I wanted to go back and watch the video to see, well, the original video with Alexander Tschugguel, well, did he in fact do that? Did he pretend to not know the name? I don't really recall. It's been a while since I've seen it. I vaguely have a memory of that, but I need to go back and look and verify and make sure that those concerns that people were sending to me are legitimate. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the original interview. I don't know if it was taken down for some reason. But I do think that in order to just kind of clear the air and just give, again, full disclosure here, it would be helpful if that video has been removed to repost that original interview with Alexander Tschugguel, because again, some of those people who have those concerns that there was some lack of sincerity behind some of the elements in that video, they might need to be able to see the original video to see if that's actually confirmed, or if Taylor Marshall's answer here that he gave to us recently is actually sufficient to clear the air. So again, I think it would be helpful to repost that video if it's been taken down. Maybe it hasn't been taken down. I just couldn't find it. I've done everything I could to search for it. I found every other video with Taylor Marshall and Alexander Tschugguel except that original interview. But here's where again, it's going to cause some concern for people because Alexander spills the beans without Taylor Marshall knowing. Watch this.
Everyone knows you as the guy who threw the Pacha idols in the river, and we thank you again for doing that. That was a great moment of victory and joy in
well, now
picture.
Taylor, isn't now the time to tell the people a little bit about how we were in contact?
I guess perhaps we can. I wasn't prepared for that, but yeah, Alexander and I had met in Rome before all this. We met before even the Pachas were out, and when we learned about the tree that was planted.
So there you go. I mean, again, he wasn't expecting this, and he does say that in the video he just released a few days ago that he wasn't expecting it. He and Alexander did not discuss that they would give this information, but Alexander just chose to do it midstream. And it was live, so it is what it is. So at that point, Monkey was out of the bag. You know, he had to go ahead and address it because he couldn't just say, no, let's not talk about that at that point. So it in other words, it looks bad, and this is why people have those concerns. Again, it very well could be that Taylor Marshall has a very good answer here, but we need to see the original interview. That's number one. And then number two, I think that Taylor Marshall needs to offer some additional clarifications here. I think that would be helpful. I give him the benefit of the doubt, but I do understand where people are coming from when they have those concerns that it seems that first interview was disingenuous. Okay, but that's more of a side note issue addressing some of the other claims that Rorate was making, saying this was a stunt, a publicity stunt. Taylor Marshall saying, look, this wasn't a publicity stunt. I did this first and foremost because I want to get rid of idolatry. It breaks the first commandment. So it seems that that's his primary intentions. It's not for clicks. It's to get rid of idolatry. That's what Taylor is saying. But again, to substantiate that further, I think it would be helpful to offer some additional clarification here. But putting the whole issue of publicity stunt to the side, let's really just get to the meat and bones here. Is this really why Pope Francis did this? That's the ultimate question. And I want to say no. Why is it that we're running all over the place looking for every kind of conspiracy, every kind of explanation, except the one explanation that Pope Francis gives us that actually makes sense and that can actually be verified? All this other stuff, I can't verify unnamed sources. That's hearsay. I can't verify half of the stuff that I see online that are conspiracies on why Traditionis Custodes happened. But I can verify the reason that Pope Francis gave. And it certainly rings true in my experience. Well, what is that reason? Well, let's take a look at it. If we just read Pope Francis, he tells us. This is in the accompanying letter to the bishops after issuing Traditionis Custodes. He tells us why very clearly. He says, at the same time, I'm saddened by abuses in the celebration of the liturgy on all sides. My rejoinder to that is, well, that's great, Pope Francis, but you know what? Might need to do something about the abuses instead of just writing letters about the abuses. That's not good enough. Words aren't good enough anymore. You got to put discipline behind this stuff. Start disciplining bishops who are allowing for severe abuse of the liturgy in their diocese in the Novus Ordo. Start putting teeth behind this. Don't just continue to say this. But that's my criticism there. Okay. In common with Benedict XVI, I deplore the fact that in many places the prescription of the new missal are not observed in celebration, but indeed come to be interpreted as an authorization for and even requirement of creativity, which leads to almost unbearable distortions. Agreed. But again, unless you do something about it, it's not going to change. Just simply saying, hey, I decry liturgical abuses, that's not going to change anybody. At this point, people are going to do what they're going to continue to do. They're going to continue to do what they've been doing unless there are consequences. And if there's no consequences, hey, I guess you can just do whatever you want. All right, moving on. Here it is, though. He said, but I am nevertheless saddened that the instrumental use of Missale Romanum of 62 is often characterized by a rejection, not only of Pachamama, no, that's not what he says, of the liturgical reform, but of the the Second Vatican Council itself, claiming with unfounded and unsustainable assertions that it betrayed the tradition of the true church. Let's stop right there. You know that this is true. I am sure you have experienced this. I'm sure you've come across people who are trying to use the TLM as a badge of tradition over and against the post-conciliar church and the Second Vatican Council itself and the magisterium itself. That is why he issued Traditionis Custodes. Now, we might criticize him and say, but Father, Holy Father, I think that this might be a very severe way to deal with this problem, this very real problem. I think there might be better ways to deal with it. I think that's fair. I do think that there are better ways to deal with this problem than just a restriction of the TLM. However, he chose to go this route. Okay. We might disagree with that. But those were his reasons, not because of Pachamama, not because of them throwing it into the Tiber, and he's showing videos of this, and he's just so angry that he was just humiliated. And come on, he tells you explicitly why. And I'm sorry, it's so much easier to believe this than the unnamed sources that he's shown a video and he's just blew his gasket and said, okay, I'm going to issue Traditionis Custodes, which is more likely. This is much more likely and verifiable because I can go to the horse's mouth where he tells me his intentions. He continues, the path of the church must be seen with the dynamic of tradition, which originates from the apostles and progresses in the church with the assistance of the Holy Spirit. A recent stage of this dynamic was constituted by Vatican Council II, where the Catholic episcopate came together to listen and to discern the path for the church, indicated by the Holy Spirit. To doubt the council is to doubt the intentions of those very fathers who exercise their collegial power in solemn manner, cum petro, et sub petro, with Peter and under Peter in an ecumenical council, and in the final analysis to doubt the Holy Spirit himself who guides the church. I agree with Pope Francis here. I think he's spot on the ecclesiological consequences that this position entails. I think he's dead on in saying you guys are wrong to dissent from the Second Vatican Council and to try to use this missile as a badge to dissent from the Second Vatican Council. You're misappropriating the purpose of the TLM, and you are in dissent against the magisterium. I think he's right there. It's just, again, I would certainly offer some criticism here, constructive criticism, saying I think that there's a better way to handle this without restricting the TLM. But again, that's my opinion. Pope Francis obviously sees differently. Perhaps that will change in the future. Maybe he will relax some of the restrictions, or a future pope will, or the problem will be resolved another way. I don't know. But it is what it is. We're here. Whether or not this was the best measure, we're here. But this is the reason why we're here, not because of some conspiracy about Pachamama. Okay. I hope this was helpful. If it was, hit that like button and the subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts there in the comment section. If you agree, you disagree, let me know. But definitely like and hit the subscribe button. Also check me out, patreon.com/Reason in Theology, if you want to get extra access to additional content that I offer for members, channel members, and also patrons only. So you can become a channel member by hitting the join button here on YouTube, or again, patreon.com/Reason in Theology. Either way, you'll get access to the same contents. Okay, y'all. See you later. God bless.
Oh, wait, before you go, I would really appreciate it if you would consider supporting this channel. This is my primary means to provide for my family, and it also helps me to produce content like this video. If you would like to support me, become a patron by visiting patreon.com/Reason in Theology. You'll also get access to extra exclusive content when you become a patron. Lastly, hit that like button and the subscribe button, and be sure to leave a comment down below. God bless. Hey RNT fans, just a quick word about one of our sponsors, Verbum. It's an excellent Bible and theological software. Simply go to verbum.com/reason, where you can get 10% off any of the packages that you choose, along with 5 extra books, and you'll be supporting us here at Reason and Theology. God bless.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home, office, or any kind of property anywhere in the world, you're going to want to call Real Estate for Life, and they're going to connect you with a Catholic agent. Now, that agent will donate a portion of their commission upon sale, and Real Estate for Life will donate 75% of that gift to a pro-life organization at no cost to you. Call Real Estate for Life at 1-877-LIFE-US1 or text them 248-431-1440. If you care about the pro-life cause, call them now.
Are you confused about how Catholic teaching authority works? With encyclicals, papal bulls, councils, and many other things, it's easy to get confused on what is authoritative and what is not. Fortunately, at MaximusInstitute.com, I have prepared a course explaining the magisterium from A to Z. Visit the website and check out the course Understanding the Magisterium for more information.